welcome to this
Hello.
week's Authentic Achievements. Hi, Fraser. It's an absolute joy to have you. I'm just going to introduce you to our fabulous audience. So I'm joined today by the lovely Fraser Duncumb, who is the CEO and co-founder of Otter, a platform that gives companies the ability to track and improve their employee engagement initiatives. What I love about your story, and I know we're going to dig into that, is that you actually came up with the idea of getting involved with this when you were practicing as a violin maker and realised from your own solitary experience that you've got a growing fascination for what makes environments work and helps people really harness their power of who they are and how can they be the best that they can be. And that's kind of driven your belief that every person can become the most exuberant, talented and productive version of themselves if they're given the right conditions, which I absolutely adore. And by empowering companies to learn and replicate the conditions, you can actually recreate that and allow people to really have that experience that allows them to be their best selves. So it is an absolute joy to have you along. I'm going to say no more, but to ask you if you'd share with us, please, a little bit about your journey so far.
Yes, grateful to be here. Thank you. It's an interesting one. People when they find out that I trained as a violin maker and made violins and various other stringed instruments, it was everyone, so romantic, sounds amazing. The reality is not quite the same. The reality is it's a sort of cold, dark workshop on your own all day, every day. Maybe a friend might pop round, but really you need to crack on. So I found what I started to do was look at that sort of environment and whether it was the right environment for me. And the reason it all kind of came to an end was that I realized I needed to be in an environment with other people. I needed to be talking to people. I needed to be empowering those people, and also letting that kind of empower me. So I had a stint in recruitment, which was fascinating. Sort of great fit in many ways for me, being interested in those sort of environments and where people were working and learning and existing. We spend more time at work than we spend with our partners. And so that if hearing very honestly what people thought about their work, that was the fascinating bit of the job. The annoying things, I spent far too much time doing that and not enough time placing candidates. So I was successful, but I was not not the best recruiter in the world by any stretch. And so then I moved into a position as a sales manager, working with an outbound team for a workwear company. Which was a really interesting position. It's on the one hand, selling T-shirts with people's logo on sounds far less glamorous, I suppose, than violin making. But actually, it's a fascinating industry because people are so the logo of a company, the brand of a company. That's what you pin the entire experience on, and so it was really interesting working with people to give them the sort of best experience they could have with regards to sort of wearing and owning that thing that they had so much invested sort of interest in. And it was while I was there, unfortunately, due to a sort of downturn and Brexit and various other things, the company fell on hard times. And I was asked, by nature of sort of sales teams, you have the performers, and then you have the people who are not performing yet, but they will, and you're working on them. And I was asked to make some of my team redundant. And I looked at my team, and one member in particular, unfortunately, was in the cap. They were going to be made redundant. They just did not deserve that. They were trying hard, and I just felt they just needed that little bit longer. And what they didn't need was the opportunity taken away from them. Now, and meanwhile, I've been working on the idea that had sort of founded we've previously called MyCentivize. And that idea was about sort of allowing sales teams to reward their staff in a sort of much better way than was generally happening, which is buy a crate of beer just on someone's desk. So I was told that I had to make my team redundant, and I just turned around to my manager and the owner of the company, and I said I can't do that. I'm afraid you're going to have to make me redundant instead. and I'll do that on the basis that this girl keeps her job. And so it was a scary moment. Here was an idea that we were working on, on the Christmas table, not Christmas table, with the kitchen table, with my co-founder, and all of a sudden, within a matter of days, it had gone from being on the kitchen table to, oh my God, we've just got an office, and now it's go time. And that was 3.5 years ago now, and that was it's been a fascinating ride since then. But I suppose that's how I got to sort of being sat in this room.
Yeah, but what I love is, I mean, not to downplay, not only has that been 3 years, but what a 3 years. I mean, let's face it, the world's thrown a few things at you that I'm sure, even if you'd have been given an opportunity to plan well in advance, you wouldn't have been able to plan for in that momentary, let's just go for it.
Yeah, so we were running Mycentivise and growing in the sort of initiatives and corporate event management as well. My co-founder came from an events background, so we were doing some awesome stuff. We were hiring out luxury hotels and putting vision days on there, and making this sort of massive experience for companies. We were taking sales teams to Miami. It was amazing, and yet COVID hit, and I watched 500,000 turn into 0 in 1 week. And that was an interesting experience, and one that I hope not to replicate. But it was then that it was a sort of what do we do? Initially we tried to take everything online, and we had some success, but found that everyone was rightly focused on the fear of what was going on in the world around them a bit more than they were caring about online yoga classes and that sort of thing at that stage, or at least trying that if they weren't already doing it. I'm sure those who were already doing it did it even more. It was at that moment that my business partner turned around to me and he said, I think I can build us an app. We'd been sort of toying with this idea of working out. We were providing these incentives and these events. We were asking, how can we ensure that these things are working? Like, companies are spending a vast amount of money on this. Like, how do we know whether they're actually having the effect that we want on people? And so we decided we wanted to do this, but we were at the point at the time we were paying someone else to build an app for us. But that with everything sort of going the way it did, unfortunately, that had to come to an abrupt stop. And my business partner turned around and said, I think I'm quite interested in learning, and I think I can build the app. And I rolled my eyes at him, and we still joke about it now. I said, no, you can't. Coding's for coders. No, you can't do it. And how wrong I was. And I've always had a sort of obsession with learning. I've also always believed that coding was something that coders did, and so now we have an app, and it was built by Paul, the co-founder, and then I learned to code, and then another member of the team learned to code. And we just bought some courses online, and that was how we spent our lockdown. Is just learning, and we've been lucky to be able to speak to some incredible people in the industry, ex-Google people, all sorts of amazing people, and run past what we're doing, and so we think we're on a pretty good line, and people have been telling us we are with the code. So it's just been a whirlwind experience, and it's I couldn't. At times, I just want it to stop. Right, like there are times you wake up in the morning, it's like, can this just stop for a minute? Can we just stop? And then it doesn't. And then I think to myself, I don't think I could do anything else. Like, this is it. This is why I get up. This is why things happen.
That adrenaline rush, isn't it? When you know that you're living your purpose, and I get it. There are moments, I think, in all of our lives where we're like, stop the world, I want to get off just for a minute. I'll get back on again. Yeah. Please just let me get off for a minute. I'm dizzy. But it's when what you're working towards is aligned to your purpose. It's something that you're passionate about. That I often say it's not just your why, and I love Simon Sinek and his start with your why. For me, it's not just your why, it's your who, because sometimes the why's there, but knowing who you're doing it for gives you that extra incentive when things get tough to go, right, okay, if I had to say this is no longer important to me, how would that land? It never lands well when you know why and who you're doing it for. So you kind of, it gives you that energy, doesn't it, to kind of take the next hurdle, to kind of brush yourself down on the, you know, 500,000 to zero. That's got to have been a very sobering moment.
Yes.
To put it mildly.
Very mild.
But I guess the thing that we know from most of the self-made millionaires in the world is a lot of them have been bankrupt. They made the biggest mistake of their life, but they learned from it. But what they didn't do was say, that's it, towels in. They were like, okay, this is where we brush ourselves down. It's where we dig in and find some resilience. And it's where we try and find something else. What we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater and go, okay, what bits can't we do anymore, but what bits can we do? And what new ideas does that augment? And it sounds like you and your business partner were really successful in being able to get yourself into that mindset and that frame of thinking.
Absolutely. And you know, I think it's you know, totally true in my case. Bankruptcy was an option. You know, it really was an option, and we'd sunk a lot of money into the company, and we were just at the point where that you know, that 500,000 looked fantastic. You know, we're 1 year in. It's, you know, such an amazing sort of position to be in. It's almost like you can sort of feel the thing taking off, and you're just holding on. And the thing that saved me from that was the team. Just, you know, the group of people that we had around us, both Paul, but also the team we had at the time, and the team that I'm lucky to have now, and just that pulled us all through. It's not me, you know. I'm one person. I have a limited amount of sort of control or influence here. It's that team, and the, you know, it's Paul saying, all right, I'm going to learn to code. And then it was Jamie going, I'm going to do that too then. And, you know, he's went into web design. Paul went into mobile design. I've gone into data engineering, which I've got a little bit of an interest in from a mathematical standpoint already. So, you know, it's a great sort of situation that, I'm just so grateful that I didn't have to experience that low.
No, but your own low anyway. But that coming back from it, you know, my nan always says every day's a school day, and you know, bless her, I've learned that she's right. And I managed to, similarly in lockdown, you know, lockdown happened. I've got a 5-year-old, she was clearly 2 and a bit at the time, and you're like, well, what do I do? I best go and learn some new skills. And I managed to get myself the reputation of being a tech nerd, because a guy I know who runs a tech company rings me up to find out what apps I've found now.
Right.
Where do you find these?
Add me to that list. I'm in.
And I was like, okay, because it was we had one really interesting conversation where I was like, I'm going to come up with this studio, and you can, you know, stream it to multiple platforms. I was like, oh, you mean like StreamYard? And you know, there is one. And I went, oh yeah. Yeah. So now he runs Ideas Past. And I was like, I can't be a tech nerd. I'm an ex-hairdresser. It's not where I fit. So I totally get your piece around why should it be me when I'm a violin maker, and now look where I am. But I think it's that passion and that drive, isn't it? So there must be so many things that you are proud of. But if I had to ask you to narrow it to just one, what would it be?
I hate this question. I don't know. At the moments of greatest pride, I think it's the team, it's the people, it's what we've managed to achieve, and I hope they won't mind me singling them out. But we had someone start last summer who had never had any real experience in the work sort of world. You know, previously worked at a COVID test site and in a bar, which, you know, amazing things to do, but very different to working in a tech company. And the person that they've become is incredible, nothing short of incredible, and that's it up there. That's really up there, and I'm so grateful that, you know, that it's not an isolated incident. You know, I was speaking to a chap in a bar one evening when I was working as a sales manager, and he said, "What do you do?" And we spoke, and he said, "Can I have a go? Have you got space? Can I have a go?" And I said, "Okay, come in next week. Let's see what you're made of." And he became a top seller within a sort of matter of months. He just absolutely flew, and just that is the most single powerful thing I have, I think, as far as sort of inspiration and sort of proud moments. If I can do that to as many people as I possibly can. I mean, it's not all me, don't get me wrong, that you do.
No, but it's creating that environment, isn't it? And it's the total ethos of what you've built. So what I love about that is the fact that the bits you're proudest of in what you and your team are doing is exactly what you and your team are helping other businesses to achieve for their businesses, for their people. And I think it shows us just the art of the possible when we create the right environment for people, when we create that environment where they can be themselves. Because I think we have unfortunately created a society of compare and despair. So we compare ourselves with everybody else's airbrushed version of perfection and look at our own messy reality and find ourselves lacking. But the reality is we don't, I always say I don't post pictures of me with no makeup on when I've been up all night with Scarlett, because I wouldn't want to put that on the world. But we've put out our best version of ourselves, and yet the reality is we are all a jumble of things that go well and things that don't go well, and no one's life is just a perfect journey. But once we're given the right environment, and I think a lot of that is around creating that culture where you're allowed to share some vulnerability. It's no longer a bad thing, because we're all vulnerable about something, but you've got the collective power of the people around you that mean that their strengths are probably in your weaker areas and your strengths are in their weaker areas, and together you flourish and you grow and you spur each other on to go and do coding or to go and do whatever it is, but to go and do the things you never thought that you would go and do. So what's amazing about your journey is that's the ethos of the company, and you're living and breathing it within that company as well, which is just something you should be really proud of.
Thank you. I'm grateful. No, it's. I think what Gavin was talking about in his interview, the idea of the sort of swimming pool, and you're creating the water, you're creating the environment for people to flourish, and I think he's really spot on with that. And I think how do you kind of do that, right? It's a difficult sort of thing to do. And I mean, the first thing you've always got to know whenever you're doing what are you trying to achieve. And I've been saying for a long time what I really want as I walk in the door here, what I really want to experience is almost like this crackle of innovation. This kind of like, what else? What could we? What if we did that? Is that thing is that really as good as it could be? Like, does it need improving? Like, maybe it doesn't, but can we go and look over that? And so I suppose we've identified over time that really that is it's the love of learning that is the environment that we try and create. And I've over the years become more and more obsessed with reading and learning. And luckily I have a terrible memory for whether I remember to take my lunch in the morning, but I have a very good memory for authors' names, which is sort of quite useful for this sort of thing. And being able to say, hey, this thing that you're talking about is really, really interesting. Have you looked into to this? This is an amazing sort of version of this thing that you're talking about. And by creating that love, that desire of learning, and then finding people who want that. I tell people we have a learning fund here, so we put some money aside every month that just gets. It's just a pool that people, like, if they want books or they want a course or they want whatever they want, like we'll just pay for it. It doesn't have to be relevant to the company. Yeah. If you're interested in it, go and just see what you can learn. And when I tell people in an interview that that's what we have, if their eyes don't light up, that's basically the end of the interview.
Yeah, it's so true though, isn't it? Because it's got to be a good value fit. And I've spent years saying, I would much rather recruit for willingness and teach skill than recruit for skill and try and teach willingness, because it happens. Yeah, I'm significantly older. But you kind of look there and go, if you can find somebody who's just got that desire to learn, that drive, and that piece to go, what else in every day, my nan used to say every day is a school day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true, because every day you learn something if you open your mind, and you learn it from everybody. You know, I learned something from my little girl and from her friends just as much as I learned things from great conversations with people like you, because they've just got a different perspective and a different way of looking at the same thing. And you're like, oh, I've not thought of that. That's interesting.
Yes,
what would happen if I changed how I viewed the world? And then what does that open up as an opportunity for us to do something different?
Yeah, so one of the things for me there, I mean, Steve Jobs was asked once, you know, how do you, what's your best sort of advice if you want to be this sort of exceptional, you know, person type Steve Jobs is. And he says, if you don't know what you need to be doing right now, like just go and travel, just go and experience things, because the people who achieve great things are the people who view things from different angles. Yeah. And there's multiple ways to do it. Like, you don't actually have to get on a plane. I recommend it. It's great, but not the plane, the other end. Yeah. Just by being open, as you say, like, you know, it's a choice whether every day is a school day. Ultimately, learning's a choice, and so being open to that is just vitally important. I was very, very lucky that my mum used to work in Sri Lanka quite a bit. She was in textiles, CEO of a textiles company, and they had factories in Sri Lanka. And so she used to go out to Sri Lanka a lot. And in the end, we ended up going as a family to Sri Lanka for a lot of holidays when I was very young, and we'd go regularly. It's an amazing experience. And what I really remember thinking, even, you know, in my sort of early teens, we have a fairly rigid idea of what works and what doesn't. Certainly in the West, in the Western world, you know, this is what works and this is what doesn't, and this is what we should be doing and this is what we shouldn't be doing. And then you go to a place like Sri Lanka, or like Thailand, or, you know, Africa, or you know, any of these places, and everything is totally different. Yeah, like everything's the way people. Okay, they're still driving, you know, cars on a road, but the way they drive is just totally different. Yeah. Like it still works. Like society still functions. People are still human. Like everything's okay. And so being able to sort of shed that view that, you know, what we do is this is how we do it. This is how we've always done it. I'm allergic to that statement. This is how we've always done it. It's like, okay, fine, that's irrelevant. Like, how are we going to do it now? Like, or how are we going to do it in the future? That's far more important to talk about. Having that experience, I think is I'm just really grateful that I've always sort of got that to lean back on. And then I remember the morning of the Boxing Day tsunami. I don't know if you remember 2004. Yeah. We always used to fly out to Sri Lanka on Boxing Day, and that year was no exception. And we were taking my grandmother, and my grandmother called and said, you need to turn on the news. I don't think we're going to Sri Lanka this year. And I heard my mum say, no, it's even more important that we go now. And so we just got on our flight and off we went, and we landed, and it was terrifying. I was 11. Wow. And I remember, you know, looking out the hotel window and seeing the beach and seeing like bits of people's houses wash up on the beach. And for wanting to probably protect me, my parents didn't kind of let me leave the hotel for the first week that we were there. But then after that, we did a sort of tour around the orphanages, and I saw we drove past the twisted track. I don't know if you remember that photo. Yeah. And that experience was just life-changing. To sort of see the devastation of a place that we'd grown to love, you know, hear the stories of, you know, like we just had everyone has tuk-tuks out there, or not everyone has tuk-tuks, but there are tuk-tuks, and there's a driver that we always called because he was a lovely man, and he'd lost everything. He'd lost his tuk-tuk, but he'd also lost his entire family, and his house and everything that he had, and he had borrowed a van from his cousin so that he could get back to driving. And yeah, people are incredible in those sorts of situations. I think it's important to. I'm waffling now, right?
No. It so resonates. So many years ago, I went on holiday with my friend, and we got stuck in a hurricane in Jamaica, and it was a real eye opener into human behaviour. Something that I'm really, really passionate about, because we were on holiday, and we had a couple of days where, yes, it was scary, and we were stuck in a coal bunker under the hotel. But you know, we had a holiday that got a little bit ruined. It wasn't kind of the end of the world. And yet for the people that lived there, they lost family, they lost friends. And I vividly remember being at the airport waiting to come back. They were now evacuating as the hurricane had passed. And some of the other holidaymakers were getting really aggressive and very angry because their holiday had been ruined and what they expected. And none of the shops were open. There was no air conditioning, and there was an exec lounge. And they'd gone in and they were really kicking off at this woman. And she was saying, I can't help you. I've got no clean glasses. If you've got a bottle, if you've got a cup, I'll get you a drink, but I can't. I've got no other way of helping you. And they were really kicking off. And I remember me and my friend suddenly deciding, you put your corporate hat on and go, we do this for a living, right? In we go. We'll negotiate. We'll calm the situation down. And when we did, and we moved everybody out, and we're like, look, we'll club together the money. We'll go into the town. We'll get water. It'll be fine. The flight's coming soon. But, leave this poor woman alone. And went to check with her, was everything okay with her? She didn't have to be there. So she wasn't being made to work. Mm-hmm. And she didn't even know if her family had actually survived. Wow. And what she was doing was trying to do the right thing. And as a result of that, got the brunt end of people that couldn't see beyond what they were missing. But yes. They weren't getting what they'd expected. And it was like, but this woman's desire to do the right thing, desire to show up and do her job and to make things easier for people, put her in the firing line. And we ended up, we had an amazing chat with her. But for me, it really got me. That started me on my journey of really digging into psychology and why we do the things we do, and how could we change some of that so that we could be a bit more inclusive of each other and a bit more appreciative. It doesn't mean say we can't disagree. We should never disrespect. And
absolutely.
I think it helps you realise the importance, doesn't it? So I think situations like that are life-changing and are very humbling. You're very grateful to be able to see the world. I'm sure the same for you from the tsunami, to be able to see the world from a position of privilege while seeing what, how their resilience, how their community, how their sense of loyalty and family gives them the courage, the desire, the resilience, the drive, the compassion to just get out there and get on with it. And I think it, for me, and it sounds like possibly similar for you, that's been a real pivotal part in my life when things have been going wrong, to go, well, they're going a little bit wrong, but you know what? It's not all gone wrong. It's like I still have my life, I still have my family, I still have, all of these. They're a great one of life's levelers, aren't they? On kind of what's important and where we should be focused.
Yes, and I was thinking back to Michael Tobin's interview where he was talking about taking out the idea of failure from life and just being sort of okay with it. And we have a slightly different way. I still use the word failure, but I make it very clear that it's expected. If you don't, if you're not taking risks, if you're not pushing yourself, then you won't fail. Like you'll stick to the easy path, but you shouldn't be doing that. You should be pushing yourself. And I think this is, sort of for everyone. Someone, Rob Nunn, said to me a little while ago. It's a common phrase, of course, but it's get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And at the time, everyone, when you say that to people, they go, "Oh yeah, okay, well, I'm comfortable. Like I know it's fine, okay." And then you sort of realize it takes a little bit of time, I think, and you keep thinking of it, and you keep going in, and it's just vitally important. Really, it's take this and go with it. Like let's get really comfortable with being. Let's push things. Let's keep going. Because as we've established, the risks that on us. We're in a very privileged position to say that, of course, but we all overconflate risk, and the risks on us are minor. And as you said earlier, about your daughter, it's can we create rather than saying what happens if I fail, like let's just say what happens if I succeed, because if my company's goal is to build a world where everyone's engaged in their work. Can I, hand on heart, say that I'm going to do it? No, I don't know. Everyone engaged in the work, that's a big thing to do, but I'm damn well going to try. And we're going to keep pushing, and we're going to keep pushing, and we're going to keep pushing. And that that's the fire, I think, that we that we need, and that really gets me going. And so I suppose it's this like the duality of thinking back to that experience in Sri Lanka and how understanding quite how privileged I am, and quite what sort of atrocities can happen, but then using that to sort of ground this desire to sort of make major change. I think that's a sort of interesting.
Yeah, and I love it, and I love that your passion is to create the best world for everybody, however they see it. Because that's the part, is it has to be however they see it, and I get that from our conversations. You're not saying everyone should live work, so we're going to do work this way. You're saying no. How do we create an environment where work can be great for you your way, while still doing what it needs to do. I could literally chat to you all day, but if you had to give yourself one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Stay humble, stay focused, and keep learning.
I love it. It has been an absolute joy. We will have to do it again, because I could just tell there's ways more that we have not dug out of this. But if people want to learn more, obviously we'll have everything in the show notes. But am I right in thinking it's www.wotter.me?
Yeah, wotter.me, WOTTER.me.
Perfect. So people, please do go along and see what you guys are getting involved with. I think it's an amazing mission, which is just to leave things better than we found them. Fraser, it's been an absolute joy. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. And I look forward to seeing you again.
Yes.
Take care.
Cheers.